Okay, we're live.
All right, great. Hi, everyone. I am Nicole Wilson, joining you from Houston, Texas. Welcome to the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. Today is June 30th, 2020. We are reading this bridge called My Back. And so let's start with introductions. Leonie, would you go first?
Sure, happy to. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name's Leonie, and I'm joining you from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And I've got my ticket in.
All right, Michelle.
Hi, everybody. I'm Loga Michelle Odom. I'm in Brooklyn, New York with my book. Happy to be here.
You muted yourself, Nicole. And
sorry, Kim. Kim, would you introduce yourself?
I am Kim. I'm in New York, and here is my book, and I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, thanks so much. And Gio, hi, nice to see you. Would you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Nice to see all of you here too. Here's my book. I'm Georgette Moses. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, and happy for this brief respite from the world with you guys.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so we are reading pages 137 to 172, or we're going to discuss those pages today. But next week, Michelle will be presenting. So heads up. Yep. And so we're here 6 Eastern next week. So let's see here. I have my actual notes. Do we want to start with the Dear Darnella? Any updates there?
Yeah, we should do it if we're going to do it. I don't have any updates. I did look, I did just kind of Google to see if there were any new stories, and I didn't find anything. Everything was like about 2 weeks old. But the GoFundMe campaign had a $500,000 goal, and at that point it had raised $525,000. So
yeah.
So that's the good news.
Yeah. Thank goodness. Yeah, very good news.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she's kind of been able to stay out of the limelight, which, is good. It's what she needs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into then our key points in discussion. I'm just going to read the brief summary quickly, and then we'll just go through some of the questions. And, well, y'all know how we do it. So, so in summary, I decided to reach back to Dr. April Baker Bell's rhetorical performance on Twitter last week to center today's discussion. Celebrating her book, Linguistic Justice, Black Language, Literacy, Identity, and Pedagogy, Bell tweeted Dr. Geneva Smitherman's review of her book. The tweet doubled as a citation and a hearty thanks, paying homage to a Black woman scholar, activist, intellectual, and deep contributor to what we understand as a perpetual archive of Black language survival. She prefaced Smitherman's review with 4 words, word from the mother. Playing off hip hop and Black feminist womanist rhetorics, Bell's tweet recognizes and attaches her work to a matrilineage of cultural workers and predecessors. The tweet also announced that we don't create content in a vacuum. There's always a past and futures. And finally, Bell's statement restyles another common kind of statement in kind of hip hop parlance, if you will, word to the mother. And I should note the two also has diasporic resonancy. The restyle, though, prompted me to ask, but what do we gain when we receive a word from the mother? Taking this question as a point of departure, I want to ask this circle, sacred circle, to keep this question with you, hold it, engage it, think through it, because I believe it's central to the section we're currently reading in this bridge called My Back, from Barbara Noda's Low Riding Through the Women's Movement to Gloria Anzaldúa's Speaking in Tongues, a letter to third world women writers. We continually receive here in this section a word from the mother. Okay, so let's just get this party started. Michelle, would you go for, would you read number 1 for us, please?
Sure. Let's start by paying homage to our mothers, other mothers, academic mothers, the texts that have mothered us. What have you learned or received? Why is paying homage a significant ritual in our reading circle or personal professional lives? I'm the one that always talks about the fantastic notion of a 500-year plan. And it's really inconceivable that a baton could be passed that many generations into the future. But I think when we look at how long so many of our struggles are, we can kind of see a baton motion happening. And when I think when we get a word from a mother, it kind of helps us to know that we're on the right path, or we're still a part of that flow. And there are two things that I think I listened to today. One of them, it was a state representative, I think, from Mississippi, and he was talking about, the Confederate flag and, how they have finally and miraculously decided to remove that symbol from their state flag. But that's a fight and a struggle that has gone on for a very long time. And so he recognized all of that, and he called all of the names of people who came before him that carried on that struggle. And so it feels like all of a sudden it happened, but it didn't just all of a sudden happen. It all of a sudden happened after all of this push that has gone on decade after decade after decade. And so I think one thing, it is our mothers kind of put us in touch with. You're a part, you're a part of a particular tradition.
Absolutely.
It's not fun. It's my generation was kind of the how you watch a pot boil and it's like nothing's happening, nothing's happening. You start to see some little some little spots on top, and then all of a sudden, my generation is like is like the little dots, right?
Right.
Boring.
Oh, God.
Nevertheless, the struggle was still going on. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Wow, Michelle, you just bringing it. Anyone else? I mean, I'll go ahead and share. I have frequently talked about having an opportunity to do some, it was like research and going through the archive, Sylvia Winter. And I still feel so blessed, so lucky to have had that opportunity to sit with her, to just learn from her, to partake of her wisdom, to go into the archive and to just, I mean, it's just really a spiritual experience going into the archive and to go into her archive and to just piece parts of her life together and the work that she's done and continues to do, really. And so, but nothing quite means as much to me as the day she named me her daughter. And so, so I had this kind of impromptu, if you will, naming ceremony, right? And so when I was named her daughter, I take that so seriously. Like, she is my academic mother. I am going to continue her lineage, and, teach her text and always cite her, mention her name, lift her work up, in whatever I'm doing. And so, I appreciate that kind of mothering.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, well, if there's no one else, we can go to the next question.
Well, were you going to say something, Georgette?
Well, yeah, I really love this question actually because one of the and I think it's really a blessing that I've received to be exposed to the mental processes of all of these different women and to see their life or how they view and feel, their life experiences through their own words. I mean, oftentimes we all, when you're reading information or reading for information, it's someone else's description or interpretation of a person's life and their experiences, the expert on XYZ or a person's viewpoint. But to really hear their own words, it makes it's so much more of a deeper connection and something that I might have just glossed over before. I have been able to take the time and really reflect. And so I guess that's kind of, and I never considered it as a mothering, that what do mothers do? They gently guide you, sometimes not so gently, but they're always giving you information, right? They give you, an opportunity to fall and pick yourself back up. And then they say, well, see, didn't I tell you that was going to happen to you? And it's kind of like you can, relate that way to what they share in their text, you know,
Mhm.
and how you can, because when you read something, and this is something that stayed with me from what my mother has told me when I was little. She said, if you get it in your mind, no one can take it from you ever. And that's what makes the written word so important. oral traditions, you know, that's beautiful too. That's another expression of it. But the words, it's something about having those words strung together and the feelings they evoke and the images they create in your mind. And that's your connection to that person, that writer that they're trying to share. And nothing erases that. And you can always return to those words, right? If you have the book written down, or even now digital text, you can always return and see something new and fresh in those words, because you change all the time, and now you've changed, you've grown, or you've experienced something emotionally, and you go back and you see something different in those words, and now they can mother you differently. So I just thought that was, you know, really a beautiful way to look at the books we've read and the stories that have been told here in our reading circle. And it just reminds me that nothing happens in a vacuum. Something, we're connected to everything. And it's just whether or not you realize it and then take advantage of that. So that's just my little piece I wanted to add there. So yeah.
Wow, Geo,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
Geo for president, come on.
No, no. I got skeletons. No, you get
Skeletons.
And I think there's so much, just so much power in a word, which is what I was thinking about as you were talking about being named Sylvia Wynter's daughter, Nicole. Um, I was thinking about when my son was an infant, and I had moved back home to my mother's house because that's what I always did when I was in trouble. No, no shame in my game. And so she was around me as I was a young mother. And one day she said to me, she said, you know, you're a really good mother. And it's not that I didn't know it, I knew it. I'm 10 years older than my baby brother. And so I felt like I had, you know, practically raised him myself. So by the time my son was born, you know, I felt like experience, you know, I knew how to take care of a baby. So it's not that I didn't have confidence, and yet it was so powerful to hear that from her. And here I am all these years later, she's gone, my son is gone. But that voice, that memory is still in my head, you know. So
That is beautiful, Michelle. What just powerful affirmation. Wow.
I love this question of being mothered through the word. It just makes me sit and think about. It's like 100 thoughts coming and going, and have not looked at books to mother me, and I just love this concept, Nicole. I really, really do. And a couple of things come to mind, little snippets of things, is when non-people of color tell our stories and get it wrong, and then you don't feel mothered at all. You feel like you dragging me around again, you know, you're making profit off of me again. And so I remember when I first adopted my daughter and I wanted to get her some therapy. She was a little tyke. And the therapist said to me that the first 2 or 3 years of a child's life, especially the first year, all the child is trying to do is learn their mother's face. That's the only goal. And if the mother's happy, the child is happy. And so I just said, wow. And I know that that's what happens a lot when I'm reading. There's certain books that I come back to over and over again. And I didn't realize that these writers were mothering me in that way. And hopefully they give me, you know, teach me Black joy, and they teach me Black love, and they teach me resilience, you know. And I love the idea of what Gio was saying, was that when you are ready, that book is waiting for you. It's a, you may inch up on it and put it down, You may not want to know that lesson yet, but like this book, I've had this book, I don't know how many years. It's all beat up. But it means so much more reading it with the five of you. It's just things are popping now that because I'm older and I'm reading it in community of women who are mothering me, and I hope I'm mothering you in some way, that it is just so powerful. And then the last thing that I'll say about mothering is this woman gave this poem about how when a woman gets pregnant and the baby is fertilized, the baby is born with all the eggs that she'll ever have. So that means the mother, the baby, and the grandchildren are all in the same space communicating. They're all right there. And if we ever think that we are not connected to some line of mothering, we're mistaken. And so reading takes me back to that place when I was in community with both my mother and my mother's mother in terms of books and in terms of the women who they used to be, who they were, because they both passed. And it also just reminds me of what culture I am responsible for moving into the next generation. Because Michelle always says this, that I have a responsibility to teach or share information with the people who are coming behind me. And if I'm not attuned and I'm not paying attention, I have nothing to offer them. And so it's time for me to allow the books to mother me so that I can be there when it's time for me to mother the people who are coming up behind me. And some of those young people may still mother me with their books. I just think this is such a wonderful question. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Kim. Kim, you are just
Wow.
a poet through and through. She's a poet. Just
That was
her
deep.
language is so
That was
poetic. Yes.
Thank
Just
you.
Yeah,
through
and
and through.
I think also, Kim, that, no one person ever has everything that we need, and like I'm thinking about the letter to Ma in this section where the writer was needing to move away from her mother for a while, because that happened. And, there were many ways in which I wish my mother would have been a different person, but she was who she was. And she was wonderful in many ways, but there were things that I needed that she didn't have. And I had to find the way to fill those needs in other ways. And books, to a large degree, have been it. Bell Hooks, Alice Walker. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think this question, it speaks to the value of text, because my mother didn't have the imagination to kind of look beyond what her personal capacity was. Um, she kind of like looked forward to things that were like more religious, that she associated with her liberation. But text are through reading books is how I moved out of that kind of stilted imagination through, as I've shared many times before, it's like through reading Black historians who are available to us now. And also I would say through fiction. Fiction's been really important, particularly historical fiction tied to where I'm from has been super important to help to shape who I am now.
Thank you so much, Leonie. Wonderful. Okay. Would someone read number 2? I guess we can go to number 2. Michelle kind of ushered us into Letter to Ma and so forth. So do we have anyone?
Oh, I'll read it for you.
Okay.
Okay. Barbara Noda, Merle Wu, and Mirtha Quintanales' reflective writings highlight a tension between the boundaries we draw and borders we erect to separate insiders from outsiders. Their melodic compositions announce this is no easy draw, no easy task. Waging different and yet similar battles, how do you read fractures and contrasts in their texts? What stands out to you? What might we make of the ordering of their texts? Okay, I'm gonna let somebody else answer that first.
I was when I thought about the ordering. Initially, I was thinking like, okay, we started from. I had to sit with this. I was like, are we outside in, inside out, the exterior, interior, and how do they delve into interiority? And so that's why I was thinking through like the ordering of those 3 pieces there. But I'm with Michelle here. Letter to Ma was such a visceral read for me. I got it. Like I mean, I understood this tension that she kept, each line turning over this tension that also occurs, in our kind of relationships and potentially mother-daughter relationships that, that there are, and we do have to highlight and speak to the tensions as well. And then low riding through the women's movement, like she's literally processing a friend's death. And this person was so instrumental to her courage and bravery and a coming of age, if you will, even if I think through it as a kind of second coming of age where her political ideology was being birthed. And yeah, these were just very powerful and haunting. I think that's the best word I have for it, haunting for me.
Mm.
Wow, I feel kind of dense. Nicole, you said something about Barbara Noda's piece that I'm like, wow, why didn't I see that? She's processing a friend's death, going through memories. Wow. Yeah. It's very emotional. You know, each of these, the conflict, their personal conflict internally, and then externally with the people who they're involved with. So now, yeah, I see it now. So Barbara with her friend, they were kind of opposites, right? They had different beliefs, but they found ways to be together in peace and enjoyment. And then Merle and her mother, the contentious cultural thing, right? You don't understand me, you don't hear me. But she did, she just didn't know how to say she did because the mother's culture was all over her, right? Her own limitations, the way she viewed and debased herself based on that culture, she couldn't escape. Didn't allow her to appreciate her daughter's, fight or striving for to be free, to be herself. But and just want you to say, her mom to say, hey, I see you, I appreciate what you're trying to do. I have problems. Okay.
Yes.
Oh boy. And then Murthers, I come with no illusions. I found, I found this sad,
Mm.
you know. I found that she's describing this personal struggle that she embodies, which is also the struggle of the movement, right? She needs women who look and speak and feel and have a history like her. She doesn't want to feel, badly about the lady that she just broke up with. It's such a conflict, right? Because
Yeah.
even the women who look like she looks have a greater a privilege, can have a greater privilege than the woman who looks like the oppressor, right? The colonizer. But it's
Mm,
all about where you are, you know, what your power what power is provided for you, you know, from the outside in, the inside out. And she's struggling with that. Hey, she wants to be with people she feels she has a greater connection with, but she's conflicted about it. So,
mhm,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, that's an interesting question, Nicole. Okay.
mhm,
I see
mhm.
those pieces differently now and how they connect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gio. Thank you for reflecting. Anyone else?
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would just say it's it's always striking to me how difficult differences differences are, and so that's what this whole section is about. Differences in age and ethnicity and sexuality and color and all of those kinds of differences. And I know one of the writers at one point says, I would think because of your experience as X, it would be easy for you to understand why, you know. And and I know I used to feel like that, I mean, I absolutely used to think that it should be easy for Black men to understand the evil of sexism if they were capable of understanding the evil of racism. It's like insert stir, change. But I learned it doesn't really work like that. And so then we have to start wondering about all the reasons why um, people don't relate to our struggles if they are slightly different from their struggle. Um, and it's just another reason that the divide and conquer is such a powerful, effective strategy. Um, but I keep hoping that as human beings, we will get smarter and we will stop falling for the same tricks and we will start giving more weight to what we have in common than the ways in which we differ. So, yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. Um, we can go to another question if no one else. Let's see here. Question 3, and I paid very hard for my immigrant ignorance. Woo. That was a tough one for me. Let's see if we could unpack that one. I want to know if you all also found it a bit challenging. Would anybody volunteer to read number 3, please?
I can read. It's nice and small. I paid very hard for my immigrant ignorance. Was a challenging read for me. This is perhaps a result of ordering. As I read, I come with no illusions first.
Okay. Okay, Kim, I think it's a cutoff there. It's another piece to that.
Oh, so sorry. I come with no illusion depicts this ardent agentive subject who is fighting like hell to name and examine the structures of her life. The second text slightly baffles me, so I had to sit with it. Addressed to Black women's studies, mother, and central political actor in the Comanche River Collective, Barbara Smith, Cutanales letter interrogates the slippages and tensions between and among categories that attempt to stabilize and destabilize points of solidarity. This includes sexual orientation, gender, race, ethnicity, and class. Let's unpack this one. How did you engage a bridge? Asking a bridge to be a bridge? As the youngins say, make it make sense. Moreover, how might BIWOC ethically labored together when, as my Southern Black ancestor Fannie Lou Hamer said, all of us is tired. We are all overlooked, all underpaid, all asked to perform this work again and again.
Thank you, Kim.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. So it was difficult. I come with no illusions. And some of it is, the ordering, like, because in the previous, I come with no illusions. She is processing leaving this lover, right? But this is the very lover, and I pay very hard for my immigrant ignorance that she seems to be advocating for, right? So the ordering was interesting and the logics of that ordering. But I just was thinking, like, the very theme and of this book is this notion of being tired of being a bridge, being tired of translating, being that kind of, in between, if you will, having to be that necessary liaison, whether you want to be that in that intermediary spot or not. And so it's so interesting because I almost felt like Quintanales was like asking Barbara Smith for permission to feel a certain way or permission to be honest about her feeling a certain way, And so again, I just said, okay, so the complaints of Black and Indigenous women of color having to be a bridge, but then you ask a bridge, so a bridge asks a bridge to be a bridge. The only difference is we're not translating for predominantly white women, but to be translating this kind of, if you will, Black experience Black woman experience to women of color, Indigenous and other women of color. And so I just was wondering, how did that sit with you all, and just what you thought of this piece? Did the ordering trip you up too, or I don't know, just what were your thoughts?
The ordering didn't so much trip me up, but I think in terms of that idea of the bridge, asking to be a bridge, that I think I recognize where the like discomfort or comes from. And at the same time, I also think that, um, I have a whole way of looking at how to connect across difference that's kind of based in my understanding of nonviolence and and also based on my understanding of the impact of systemic oppression. And it feels to me that connection, that bridge connection feels necessary in some way, because people, other non-Black people of color, no, it's not even that. There's not access to understanding what is happening in Black lives. So it's like, where is that? If it's not going to be that bridge, where will it come from? Because this came up actually in the conversation I was having this morning about how like, it's like Blackness is like a thing, kind of like whiteness is like a thing. Like it's very unique, like even amongst other people of color. And yet, in order for someone to actually see us fully, they have to go through their own filters of how colonization and white supremacy have impacted them. And so I think that such a query, I would like to see it like it's. I think it's that we're all better met if it's like gently received. Do you know what I mean? Because the truth is that you don't see, the world is designed so that we don't actually see each other as people of color, because that would give us significant strength over the dominant white culture. And so it's like other forms of systemic oppression. I wouldn't want to fault the individual for a systemic piece. So that's how I answer that.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, I like that.
And I didn't necessarily see it as asking for permission as much as just expressing hurt at her sense of rejection by Black women. And let's face it, we can be pretty rough. And are not always patient and tender with people who don't know our story. So like I'm thinking about what she talked about being in college and knowing that Jamaicans call themselves Jamaicans and Chinese call themselves Chinese, and and everybody has this ethnic identity. So what is Black? What is Black? I knew people like her, so I can understand how confusing that would be if you don't know our story. And I think we have to be honest about, there's a lot to know. And a lot of us don't know much about our story. We know our lived experience, but there's a lot still that we don't know. And, we only have one life to live and so much time in the day and so many things to do, that I do wish we could be more gentle with people when they're trying to learn, because it's a lot. Like right now, we're in this moment, they can't keep a Black book on a bookshelf. And that's, that's wonderful, because all of a sudden, white folks are very interested in learning our story. And they've been in, the older ones, generations of this book, they've been in those encounter groups where Black women ripped them a new one because they said something stupid, and our response is go read a book, figure it out for yourself. I'm tired of spoon feeding you, and yeah, because it's a lot to spoon feed somebody. But it's also a lot to learn, even if you're willing to try to learn. And so my only concern, right now that people are actually putting in the work, is I know that once you start to read our stories, it's hard. Our stories are hard. They're hard to look at. They're hard to consume. They're hard to hold on to. You want to read a couple of pages and go put it down, and you may not ever pick that book up again. Because it's that way. So I'm glad that white people seem to be taking a leap. And I hope they have the courage to stay on that path, because we are tired, and it is asking a lot of us to lead you every step of the way.
Thank you for that, Michelle. Yes. Anyone else?
I'll just say briefly that I'm at a writer's retreat this week on Zoom. And I'm so disappointed about that because I wanted to be in Miami, Florida. But it's Voices of Our Nation. It's a writers group for people of color. And it's the first time for me personally where I'm hearing so many stories of oppression from all different voices, different, in terms of class, in terms of just cultures, sexual orientation. It's just everybody's here and everybody's saying where their hurt is. And so to be able to listen with my heart, and there was one person, I'm not breaking anybody's anonymity, that they were just saying that they went through MFA programs and never read a book about a non-white person. And so all of a sudden you start feeling like, come on under the tip. Like you just want to grab somebody and say, come on under the tip. Come on over here. And so I always got that from Leonie, that she always just talks about when to widen your tent to include more people who may be going through something similar, so that you can relate from a lens that's bigger than the African American perspective. But at the same time, there's certain times where the African American perspective leads a lot of oppression and a lot of deep centered stuff where it can benefit other people to carry us and help us, and not ask us to be the folks who are always out front writing, doing the work. So I just think this is such a complex situation. And for me, my goal is to listen with an open heart, and any place where I can, if I have the resources and I can provide a bridge for someone else temporarily, I am more than willing to do that. I'm not willing to do it on a permanent basis, and I'm not willing to spend the last of my resources doing it either. Where I need help is when my white allies ask me to make them comfortable in this time. I don't know how to be in that space, but I think there's power in that space too. And it may not be those times where this bridge becomes a bridge. It may be when another metaphor becomes another metaphor. But You know what I'm saying? I just think this is a time for me to keep examining myself and say, where are you now? What's going on? And this is the wonderful thing about this group. How do I get mothered through all of these iterations of working with different types of people in different spaces to help, to be a part of the solution and not be locked in a rigid, something that looks like help, but is so small that if my help doesn't come on a Tuesday at 1 o'clock, I don't want it. No, I think that it really requires that I really have an open heart to listening, and where can I fit in, where can I be of help, and who can I mother through this. And it may be that I'm mothering a Japanese child, or maybe I'm mothering someone else, and somebody else is mothering my Black child. But I think we get bigger as we become the bridge to the bridge in temporary spaces. But if you're asking me to stay in that space permanently, that I will not do.
See, this is what I love about Kim. See, you already know she's putting the boundaries in place. See, Kim started with and she ends with, but it's not going to be permanent. See, that's what I love. Like, okay, it's time now. I've had enough.
Exactly. It's not going to be permanent.
What I love. Okay, anyone else? And Kim, I would also say, sometimes they need to get the coin ready to pay Leonie, get paid to, participate in Leonie's workshops and so forth. They learn so much, there, because I'm starting to say to people, hey, I have a sister she's wonderful, you see, and you know what, if you join the workshop, you walk away with something valuable.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, well let's go to let's get to oh gosh. Anzaldúa. Let's go there. Wow. Ooh, just beautiful. Let's go to one of the last ones. And Leonie, I'm gonna ask you to just pick one to read, and we can just get to, kind of that way, if you could choose one of the in closing questions.
Okay. Give me a second. Okay, number 7. Anzaldúa goes on to ask, why am I compelled to write? I want to know this answer, of course, but also I'd like to ask, why are you compelled to read? What brings you to this circle each week? What makes this beautiful ritual worth keeping for you?
Sorry, you all.
Yeah.
I went out.
No,
okay.
That's great. I'd love to answer that question. I'm compelled to read because for me, it's a way. I almost see my life as a counter narrative to what is being held as expectations of me as a person who's in a Black body, a big body, a female body. And so reading helps to, it's how I learn, because I read things and then I kind of argue with text, and that's what expands my understanding of not only the text, but primarily of myself. I mean, I want to always be changed by the things that I'm reading. And so that's what compels me, is because through reading, as I mentioned in the previous question, it's how I have learned to move beyond the stereotypical understanding of who it is that I am, meant to be as a person of color, as a Black person. And so I come to the circle because I for the same reason why I wanted to join, is that when I read text, I'm interested in looking at gaining perspectives and understanding the text, like in a very useful way. And so I find that our conversations allow for, it deepens my understanding of what's available, of what the gift of text is. So that's why I'm here. Complete.
Woo, Leonie said the gift of text. Wow.
I agree with Leonie. I would put a different spin on why I keep coming to this group. It's like this prism that each one
Oh,
of
you said
us.
prison. I thought you said prison.
No, a prism. It's a lens. It's like this multifaceted lens.
Pull it together, kid. Pull it together.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just love those jailhouse uniforms that we wear. Yes. No, I love them. I love a prison guard.
Oh my goodness.
So I stopped. Oh gosh,
Sorry.
that tickled my funny bone. But what I was saying is that once you look at the text, I just think that Geo has this way of bringing the spirituality to whatever we're reading. Every once in a while, she pulls out her guns. It's just like you go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then Michelle has this whole militant 500-year plan where she can just kind of not look at today. She wants to look at the same text in this long planning way. And then, Nicole brings this whole academic thrust, like, well, let's go back and look at what Fannie Lou Hamer said about this. And then we're going to look at, what Audre Lorde said in this particular book. And I'm like, she said that? Really? And then Leonie.
And don't forget the poetry and the singing that you bring.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
I just know that Leonie will come and say, this is how it works when you look at it through different spaces. So it's just so multifaceted where the text goes, no matter what book we're reading with this group. It's just like this quiet gem. And so I can see how Michelle says, let's make it live. And I'm like, no, let's just keep it down south. But I just think that no matter what it is we're reading, by the time we're off the call, I have learned so much so that I'm not looking at life with this narrow view. So my view always gets times by 5 by coming to this group, and also with Benita too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, Kim. Anyone else?
I think Kim just said it all. She said everything I wanted to say, but couldn't find the words because she's the poet. No.
But
Oh,
I
man.
love how you're so sweet, and then every once in a while you say, "Well, that's when I bring out the guns."
Yeah, because I speak softly and carry a 9. No.
That's right, Gio.
That's funny.
Oh my goodness.
Or not.
Yes, that's it.
You'll need the, who's gonna be your Ken? Because we have Karen and Ken
Oh,
right
yeah.
up there. And where were they? Oh, they were in St. Louis. Yeah.
That's right. The guns
Oh
on
my
the lawn.
goodness. That was so embarrassing. But I always try when things happen, I always try to, but let me try to put myself in their place. Like the gate is a private street. It's your property. What would you do? But everything is a result of fear, isn't it? And if you can calm your fear and look at things rationally, the results can be so much different, right? Then the president couldn't use you as his daily tweet. Oh, look at these poor white people defending their property from these peaceful protesters. Oh, those cameras, they're so dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's about empathy. Yeah, empathy. I understand there's a bunch of scared, privileged people trying to figure out what's going on and whether their
Yeah.
lives will remain the same.
Ooh.
Hmm.
I will add to you all. Some of well, there. So a love for reading also brings me to this circle weekly, and it's really sacred for me. Like I'm modeling to my children, my especially my daughters, who the son is big boy grown. For the girls, I want them to know that you need to find what brings you joy. Commit to it, be involved, and so on and so forth. And sometimes what brings us joy is, like the last thing people think of, but it's like being connected through reading. And that's really what we are quirky enough and lovely enough and wise enough to be connected in this way. But I'm also hoping that when I become an ancestor and I float on to my next adventure, I'm hoping that some young Black woman or a young woman, period, is going to discover she'll be in her PhD program or whatever they're going to have at that time, 50, 80, 100 years, 100 years from now. But she'll be in a program and she'll want to do some type of archival research. She'll discover these videos and then we'll be written in text and then, and we can do the mothering that way. So as well. So I think and I hope and I feel strongly that somebody's going to get to know us and discover us, through the archival research.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings me here all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. I guess I could go on with this question for a long time, but I won't. I just, I'm a Sagittarian, so I've kind of been on a lifelong truth-seeking quest, and and one of the main things I've learned is that truth is very slippery. It's no one person has access to it all, and that I really believe that we get closer to the truth the more perspectives we bring to bear on any particular question. As my mother would say, no man is an island, no man stands alone. So I think it's important that we allow ourselves to hear how other people see, anything, because we're limited. We're all limited, So what I don't understand are those people that think they know everything. And I don't ever want to be that person. I mean, here we are this week. And I mean, I can imagine, but I can't imagine how I would feel if I had a child in Afghanistan and we were talking about the president not reacting to reports of Russian bounties being put on soldiers' heads. And then you say, did he know about it or did he not know about it? Well, he's not much of a reader. We put it, I mean, what the hell? Reading is fundamental. And why we haven't gotten that through in this country, the fact that we have allowed education to be so it sickens me. It sickens me. So reading is important, when you're in school and when you're not.
Amen.
Oh, amen. I know that's right, Gio. Michelle, just woo. Executive Carmen. Yes. Thank you, Michelle. Wow. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we have what, about 9 or 10 minutes. You have any last thoughts, last statements? You know what? I'll go to close us out. Number 8. It's just an offering to each other. Does that sound okay for everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, cool. So number 8 says, I want us to close by adhering to Anzaldúa's exhortation. I say, mujer mágica, empty yourself. Take this as an invite to share a sentence from the section as an offering to each other, a mother, and other mother, an academic mother, and any artist, organizer doing the necessary work of mothering. So kind of going back to kind of where we began. Would anyone like to start us off?
That means I have to look at all the ink.
I'll start us off too, because I already had mine on
Okay.
my too. I just love this poem, Cherríe Moraga. It's like, whoa, I love it, y'all. But I like when she says on my page 164, and I'm going to dedicate this one to two of the women I love. I would offer this to my mother and to my other mother, academic mother, Sylvia Winter. But and I love when Cherríe Moraga, when Anzaldúa quotes her, the poem, and she said, to gain the word, to describe the loss, I risk losing everything. And so I think about, and what makes this an offering for me is that, growing up working class and being in some of these violent institutions, that's literally what you feel, you're gaining their word. And so, yeah, I'll pass the baton.
I have one mine's on page 162. I love it. A woman who writes has power. A woman with power is feared. In the eyes of the world, this makes us dangerous beasts.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had that one underlined
I
too.
love it. I just love it.
Cool.
Normally,
That's
I don't
really good.
describe. I don't enjoy anything around people being described as animalistic, but there's just something powerful about that. It's such a counter narrative to like the mammy shit that we get slapped on us, and it reminded me of the meaning of my own name and how I want to continue to grow into it, which my name is Lioness. That's what the meaning of Leonie is. So that would be my quote.
Oh, that's beautiful, Leonie. President, okay?
I'm on 171.
171, Michelle?
Yep, almost at the very end. Write with your eyes like painters, with your ears like musicians, with your feet like dancers. You are the truth sayer with quill and torch. Write with your tongues of fire. ... Put your shit on the paper.
Yes.
Oh, beauty. Beauty every day.
Take us out, Gio.
Okay, man. Y'all
Not
guys
with your
picked
9mm either.
No, it's holstered. Okay. Well, oh man, there was so much stuff, but I like 170, which is kind of spicy. And it's down at the bottom of the page. If you're going to spit in the eye of the world, make sure your back is to the wind.
Oh, mother.
I love that one. It reminded me of I saw this thing one, like, if a motherfucker bothers you for no reason, give that motherfucker a reason.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Also on 171, even though we go hungry, we are not impoverished of experiences.
Yeah.
That was great. And of course, I love the Alice Walker quote on the previous page, 170. But there's not a word Alice Walker has ever written that I don't love. So there's that.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Wow, this is beautiful, y'all. I had so much of what you all shared underlined. And so that is, whoa, that's so beautiful. It all touches. Okay, well,
I love this whole essay, speaking in tongues. So we're really just at the beginning of this section. So I'm probably going to love the section as well, but Gloria's essay, I just, I love the concept of organic writing and the inspiration and encouragement that she gives to, write out of your personal experience. And, and I used to feel that way a lot, like the academic process, it just sucks the life blood right out of you. And you really, you really have to kind of decontaminate yourself after coming out of an academic experience in order to get in touch with yourself as a real writer. And so I love the way she describes it and encourages it, and yeah.
yes, indeed. I love that. But I find, really a composition pedagogy in this in this work and speaking in tongues. And you're right, Michelle. It's just like the bravery that Gloria Anzaldúa has here, and she's gifted us. I mean, this is just such an expansive and a gift that just just keeps on giving. So I'm really grateful here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have enjoyed each of you, wonderful women. I've enjoyed you as always. I'm going to close out just reminding that for everyone to, and if there's anyone watching, join us next week, same time, same channel, same means. And as Michelle encourages us here, walk in peace, pursue joy, spread love, and see you next week reading our story together. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you.